Hello. Hello, everybody. I would like to see, yeah, some people are coming up, coming in. That's good. So today, I think I will start. Thank you. Marcinti sound is good. Okay. I think I would like to start today not with the questions, since there are no questions yet anyway, but with telling some interesting stories, which of course relate to how we play. And specifically, that would be about the bow, really, about the sound. So the story was about Isaac Stern. So everybody knows who Isaac Stern was. I'm pretty sure still everybody knows. He was a huge figure, Isaac Stern, in the violin world in the 20th century, extremely influential, and helped a lot of great careers to come forward and open up. And so anyway, so Isaac Stern was Russian by birth, really, and he spoke Russian. So at one point, he was allowed or wanted to go back, and the then Soviet Union let him in for a concert. At that point, it was just a concert. So that was, I believe, in um, good evening. Yes, that was, I believe, in late 50s or early 60s. It was before my time, but I heard everything from my parents, who both were in the hall for that performance, and so was the rest of Moscow Conservatory, of course, and the rest, and a lot of professors. All the professors came, of course, as well. So, what was the interesting thing that came out of this performance? That by the accounts of everyone involved, it was impossible to really hear him, to listen to him closer than the sixth row of the Moscow Conservatory Bolshoi Zal, or Great Hall. So closer than the sixth row, it was all that kind of sound. And through it was coming something else. But further than the sixth row and all the way into the hall and all the way up the gallery. It was amazing. So after this concert, he also did a class later in Moscow Conservatory, in which again my parents were present. And but before that, there was this concert, right? And he was off the stage, and the professors were leaving. And one of the very esteemed conservative professors said, "Well, maybe I am speaking about Isaac Stern, Michelle." So, so he said, "Well, maybe we should reconsider the way we teach sound production here, tone production." So, reconsider or not, it's another story. But what basically came through that Isaac Stern was able to get huge sound from the violin. Of course, he had also a violin of the projection of which were just not happening in Soviet Union back then. There were just no violins of this caliber as well. But it wasn't just the violin; it was how he produced the sound, and he produced the sound by what now we know a flat hair tone production. So that's when we use completely flat hair all the time, pretty much. Maybe not at the very frog. If you play softly, you can go a little bit like this. But then after that, it's completely full hair, full to the tip, and that allows, of course, for much more sound. It does lose in refinement, but the the effect of Stern, the effect of huge sound filling the hall and everything was really something not very well known or not known at all at that point in Soviet Union. Soviet Union kept the tradition of the French school, of French conservatoire, and yeah, pretty much, Franco-Belgian. So we play with a tilt and so on. So That was interesting. Then when I came to the United States, I met with people, and most of them were in New York. And some of them were former Russians also, like who emigrated, that completely switched to this way of playing, to the loud way of playing, basically. And so now we know that it just exists. There are two ways of producing the sound on violin. So, what motivated start with the full hair when the tilt was the order of the day? Well, first of all, I'm not sure that Stern was looking at any orders of the day. You know what I mean? He was a person. He just wanted more sound. In a way, that's what's happening with the whole world right now. So, the bigger, the better. In America, it is very popular idea altogether. Yeah, I live in Texas, right? I live and work in Texas right now, and so we have the Texas portions of food, and everything is basically, yeah, everything is bigger in Texas, right? And not only in Texas. So I think the fact that all the auditoriums have increased in size, it's been happening over the, from Baroque time until now. It's been happening, and so this huge buildings and huge spaces that you can fill with sound, yes, it does produce better, more effect on people, especially who sit very far away. Yeah, you hear a violin, delivering. But the Franco-Belgian method was for smaller spaces, basically. Back then, there were no need to fill a space like this, like we have now. But again, I'm right now will sound I will probably sound as a proponent of this style of playing, which, I I appreciate it, but I still don't play like this and I will not change. I still like the refinement a little bit more. And then I think there are different ways. So there's two different ways. One is the flat hair and the other one is somewhat tilt. But those who play with the tilt, which I'm not sure percentage wise right now, it's hard to tell how many people are, many people sort of went in between. So, but what we know about playing with the tilt, it's very easy to over tilt, and that's not good. So all of us who play with the tilt, we once in a while will have to go through the, cleaning the tilt thing, So we should really be at 45 degrees, no more. So, which is about this, the tilt of the stick. So, but with playing like this, it tends to go this way, and especially if you bring your elbow up and you can end up much closer. Here, you see how much closer it is now. So if I don't know if you can hear through computer though, but there's like a little bit of extra sound. That's because the stick goes on. When we play like this, we don't notice because it happens gradually in our practice time. And so little by little, the tilt is here and we miss the point of hearing that unpleasant tone, So yeah, and it becomes over tilted. So as a teacher, I correct it all the time, okay, too much tilt, recalibrate. And so the calibration is happening not by doing this, but by turning the bow into your hand. Okay, so that's basically the best way to reset, so to speak. So if this is the tilt and this is too much maybe tilt, at this point it's not, what I'm sure right now it's not, but on violin it could become that way. So then we do the following. We just turn the bow here. And by the way, if I turn more, I will end up with a flat hair, just like this. So flat hair is just, the uh, fingers feel very different when you use flat hair. So you will then lie on the frog all the time. They will be in touch. The tips of these two fingers, excuse me, will be in touch with the frog, while with the tilt, they're not in touch. There's air there. Anyway, so here's a story about Stern. I thought it was. I was reminded about this. Okay, is it true that playing with the flat hair can kill the overtones on gut strings? You know what? I don't know, because nobody before in previous times played with flat hair on Gus strings? No, then it was not possible. So I don't know. Maybe one should try and see. So a matter of conscious, consistent adjustment from string to string, and even more to think about. Yes, I mean, Michelle. Well, I know. I honestly don't think that you should switch from the way right now you're playing or learning to play or already playing. First, I believe it's really important to get to the top of what's possible to do this way, one way, and then you can branch out to do the other way. You know, one thing that I notice with a lot of people who play with flat hair. Now, there's some people who do it like Stern did, or for instance, Pinka Zuckerman. You know, he plays with flat hair. He's proponent of very, very much so flat hair. Also, huge, huge sound, huge. So he, Stern and Pinkas, they don't have the problem of choked sound at all. So they draw the bow in such a way, speed perhaps, that they don't have choke sound. Another thing that I don't remember Stern producing, so he was going somehow around it. You know, the thing about the flat hair, really, the flat hair is good hair on this kind of bow, you know, toot bow, right? So to jump, to bounce there. So for instance, if we want to bounce, we want to bounce on the flat hair, right? We know that. So it's better to bounce on flat hair, like this. You see, bow is very crisp, or the bounce is crisp, and it goes. Like if I do the same thing, so right now I will tilt and do exactly the same throw with everything else. It just bounces much less. Even though my speed is the same, everything the same. You know, this is flat hair. This is not flat hair. So that's the reason for not using flat hairs. When we go through the middle, even like we have vigorous détaché, for instance. So that tilt helps me not to have the little bouncy leftover bouncy something if I play like this. Again, now I exaggerate a little bit so that you can hear it through a computer. But basically, if the movement is a little abrupt, then with flat hair, it will definitely go into bounce. And half bounce anyway. And so what people usually do then, a lot of players do, they just press more. You know, press more here or press more with the whole hand, whichever. And so that presses the sound. So the way to go through it without bounds, I'm sure, is to watch your bow changes even more so that they're not jerky, not sudden, not too sudden, because it's a sudden movement that will do it. But you know, again, this is basically almost off the string, right? If I do it this way, there's just nothing. So with the tilt, it's easier, much easier to avoid the unwanted bounce. And then when you want to bounce, then you actually you will use the wrist to go and bounce. So now let me see the question. My teacher taught me to play with the tilt. Mine did too. But I didn't even consider how the arm naturally will roll more on the G string as you described. So one might study adjust in the fingers. What do you mean roll more on the G string as I describe? Roll more? I'm not sure. Michelle, maybe you can clarify. Now, next person, Sarah, so how can I produce a great sound without losing the integrity of the piece? Well, what does that one have to do with the other? Just produce the sound, and it depends on what piece. I mean, if you want to produce great sound, I mean, what do you mean by great sound? Loud sound, full sound, core sound, beautiful sound, sweet sound. What kind of great sound? And then it depends on the piece that you're playing. If you're playing some, Debussy, something of that quality, and then you will want to have bigger sound. Well, that of course the integrity of the piece will be lost. But it depends on which piece. If it's Brahms concerto, uh, Brahms Tchaikovsky concerto also could use a lot of sound. I mean, that way great sound. If you mean the quantity, so you have to be specific what kind of great sound. Yeah, no, I'm working on finding my sound again after many years away from violin. It sounds okay when I play forte, but I have very disconnected, scratchy sound when playing pianissimo. Any suggestions? Yeah, Diana. So you need to really start looking at the contact point. Really, really closely start looking. It's very possible. I haven't seen you, of course. I don't know, but so if your forte sound good, you might be, what I would call, what we usually call contact point number 3. So, first, usually most people call the first one the closest to the to the bridge. Then fifth, the number 5, the closest to the fingerboard, but not yet on fingerboard. On fingerboard, it's called sul tasto, right? And so we're close to fingerboard, but not on it. So you can see it, right? That would be number 5 right there. Okay, so then number 3 is smack in the middle, and then number 2 is in between these two. Number 4 is in between these two. So if you're really playing like with forte, you're most likely using 3 and maybe 2.75, put this way, right? So then if you're not changing contact point and you're trying to play piano, so here, for instance, right now I'm playing the Tchaikovsky concerto, like, the second theme in forte, which actually it isn't in forte, it's in piano. But let me say it's in forte here. Now I want the same thing in piano. My bow will not be in the same place. So the bow goes. If as I go into upper position, of course, the bow also will move. But yeah, it's a contact point. So if I don't change contact point, I will get this ugly thing. So that's possibly why it happens, because your bow is not in the right contact point. Now back to the again, I'm example to be careful about the tilt, because as practice goes on, we don't notice. Okay. So that's what you meant, Michelle, by um, will roll naturally on the string. Well, not necessarily. I mean, the stuff over tilting, it just happens on any string. Pretty much can happen. It's just one has to be watchful all the time to not to let the bow go there. Now, people with flat hair, most likely players, just don't have that problem because it doesn't go anywhere. What bowing patterns would you think are the most useful to learn in Kreutzer number 2? Oh, Kreutzer number 2. All first. I mean, if it's for a beginner, if you teach or you yourself are, or you teach beginners, well, I mean, it's like not exact beginners, right? But very close to the beginning when we already play fluently in first position. So let me see here. So Kreutzer number 2 goes like this. And so forth. Okay, so now it's just Dedashe, right? So the bowing patterns usually, of course, will start with the basic. Basic bowing pattern is long to short, right? Then you reverse them, da 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 da, of course. And then we go to all kinds of combinations. I mean, and in my day with our teachers, we had to play the whole etude in one pattern. So you should be able to just apply the pattern to the notes that you already learned. And of course, they learned by memory. Yeah, you have to learn by memory, because otherwise I don't know how to look at music and do different bowings. That will be hard. So you learn the music by memory in Detaché, and then you do this. So now to give Jonas an example of what we did later. So we would study, combinations of bowings. I think there are many editions. There will be like these many bowings in the beginning. Um, I would first do all kinds of combinations, like so 3 and 1, then 1 3. You know that one. Then to do, for instance, I call it slur over or slur, not slurring in a regular way, but slurring in the slurring in the stronger beats as well, or its other, like its cousin. Maybe starting from that one, or maybe starting from the other one and then going to that one. That one is important. Then you can, these are all so far I'm showing, first of all, they're legato, they're unstring, they're detaché related bowings, right? They're more, of course, they're, so you, sort of like the bowing itself is basically a syncopation, but with notes, it's not. So then what do we do? So this is all connected, right? Then we would, and these are all 4-note patterns, okay? Then you can go to 8-note patterns, okay? So for instance, well, actually there's one, okay, I won't show that one yet. Let me see. Okay, so right now I'm showing the bowing that, so first is ta tam pam, then slur one tam pa pam. Okay, so that's a pattern for 8 notes. So you first do 4-note patterns and then you 8-note patterns, different bowings. You can do 3 and 5, which is also very good to learn. To travel, that's great. No, this is very good to train on that one, on the cursor number 2, for evenness of travel up. Okay. And in others, right? And then you also go and, for instance, you can do martelette there, you can do Viotti bowing, which is kind of cool. When you have short, long, short, long, short, long, short, long, short, long in the same direction. It's a very basically variant of martelette. So yeah, you do this, then you can do sautiller, you can do spiccato, all kinds of things you can do on that one. All right, let me see. Okay, Michelle, you said you mentioned you must simply adjust the fingers to bring the bow back to proper tilt angle. Again, this is not like within one practice, okay, right? It's usually just like that happens over time. That doesn't happen in one day. Hopefully, it can't. I mean, the over tilting happens over time when we just don't notice it. Like I don't know, 3 months, 4 months, maybe half a year tendency to slightly over tilt, and then you bring it back. Yeah. So, but not like you're constantly adjusting. That should not be happening now. So I feel that the formula of bow and left hand can change in the higher positions. I'm facing less quality in the sound in the higher positions. I'm not sure this is from my right or left hand. Yes. I mean, again, there are several factors in the higher positions. First of all, I'm not sure, or rather, should I ask, are you sure that you are not distracted by superficial noise in the upper positions? Because when we play here, especially when we play loud, you know, That is not bad yet, but when you go higher up, like by my ear right now, there's a lot of shh kind of noise like this. And the sound goes through it. So I hope that you're not referring to that because that's normal. That should be there. It will be there. We cannot remove that surface noise. But if, for instance, your fingers, on E string, the fingers really don't need to press hard on the upper positions. But and also, by the way, you need to check if you feel that okay, I press and it could be that your fingers are not pressing enough. It can be because strings can be too far from the bridge, further than they need to be. You know what I mean? So that's a luthier. Good luthier will take a measurement and see if they're too far. Because if they're too far, then you have to press more with fingers on upper registers, let's say, or E string or A string. But mostly it's A, E, and G that suffer from that, could suffer from that, yes. And then there's not enough strength in the finger to press down. And even if it is, it's not a very good idea to press down more than necessary, and the necessary is determined by the height of the string over the fingerboard. So that needs to be checked. Okay, so provided that's all good, then yes, then you sometimes for more quality sound, more clear tone, you need to depress the string fully. In We're talking about middle tempo, slow middle tempo. If you're in really fast tempo, fingers do go faster. Faster they go, the lighter they become. That's the formula. And then the bow can be more into the string to help to depress, especially if you're like here, you know. Now on my violin, string right now very low. That's how I have to have them. So they're very low. So for me, pressing here is not a problem at all. But I used to play on a violin on which it were too high, and yeah, I had to press a lot. So let's see. Um, okay, I again, so I hope I answered the question. I was sure if it's my right hand or left hand. Well, it's true. It can be both. It can be from both. So right hand is contact points and how you produce the tone. Left hand is the amount of pressure, pretty much. What are some violin lesson memory, good or not so good, that you remember from your youth, that you find yourself chuckling because you're now teaching the same lessons to your students? That is a good question. Okay. All right. You know what? Isn't that funny? But like with lessons, I don't remember any particularly good lessons when I was very little. From the very little of me, nothing good really kind of stuck to memory. I guess there were many good lessons, maybe because of this, nothing was really sticking up. But there were a couple interesting lessons. Well, one, there were several lessons when I was taken by my mother. My mother took me to see her first teacher, who was a genius, really, and setting little kids up and making sure that everything moves properly and the hands look beautiful, like everything is totally like this. You're here at the frog. I have a picture. I'm like 6 years old, I think, on that picture. And I'm just like, it's picture perfect. And meanwhile, I was actually playing. I wasn't posing. So that's doubly picture perfect. So that was after I had lessons with him. But unfortunately, he was at that point dying, and he was dying of like it's a similar disease to multiple sclerosis, but muscle dystrophy of some, not multiple sclerosis, muscle dystrophy of some sort. It was anyway. So he was in very bad shape already. He basically couldn't speak. I mean, my mother would be near him, and he would whisper to her, and then she will come to me and do what he just said. That sort of lessons. And I remember these lessons were very long because, of course, we had to, you know, go through the whole Moscow to get there. It was far, and plus he was weak. And once already the lesson was, I mean, at least he could kept going. And so the lesson probably would be like 2 hours, 2.5 hours for a kid of 6 to stand there. And plus it was, it was a room of a sick person. So I remember the smells and everything, and just dark. It was dark because I think his eyes were reacting to light or something. So yeah, I remember that. I also remember playing and like after, at home and liking the result. That I remember. But then after, unfortunately, he died very soon, and so I didn't study with him for too long. And so then I went to a different teacher. My mother gave me to, some teacher who specialized in teaching little kids. So that teacher wasn't so good. So um, one thing I remember that I was exceptionally bored in lessons. I was so bored, and she wasn't as particular, like, she wouldn't be molding my hands and so forth. She was just giving me directions and then writing them in a little notebook, and it was like all so boring. That I remember. So one day my nanny took me there for a lesson. And I just absolutely hated to go again because it felt like, okay, it's too soon, it's too close lessons, and again we go through the whole Moscow. And um, I'm opening up. So my teacher was a old lady, not older, but she felt to me as an old lady. In fact, she wasn't. But she opens the door, and I know that smell, and that smell is a smell of boredom for me, boredom. And she had all these little dolls. She collected dolls, and so I go there and I pack my violin and I start playing and doing something, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I cannot stand it. I cannot stand it. Not today. I don't want to be here today. And then I think I'm going to throw up. I feel like I'm going to throw up because it's so boring. And it's not easy for me to throw up ever. Never was. And suddenly I feel like everything is coming up. And so here I am, my violin is here, and I'm throwing up on her carpet. And of course, she was totally alarmed. And so was my nanny who brought me there, like, oh my God, what, sit down, the water, and everything. And I'm like, yes, no less. I'm thinking to take home. They're going to take me. She's going to take me home, and she did. So that was a interesting lesson and happy ending. I was taken home out of that whole boring stuff. So I'm trying not to have boring lessons with my students. That's for sure. Okay, Maria, you have any tips for keeping focus during practice? Yes, tips for focus, keeping focus. I mean, goals. It's like goals. You have to have a goal that you're achieving right now. Don't practice for the sake of practice. Just don't play by minutes. That's the worst thing to do. Like, okay, I will be practicing it for 5 minutes. No, your goal is, any goal should be achieved as soon as possible. Sometimes to achieve the goal, it will take longer than 5 minutes. But if you have the goal and you're achieving it, you're working on it, you're not going to be losing focus. But if you feel like you are, pull the violin down, go and clear your mind, clear your brain. Sometimes it's good to jump or walk fast, or just or switch to other activity. But I would say physical movement, like whole movement of the body, is really helpful to clear your mind also. You can also drink some lemonade or add lemon juice. That also cleared up the mind. um, all right, just came in here, so thank you. I work in Mendelssohn violin concerto second movement, having trouble keeping the melody clear and flowing. I think I get stuck when shifting on the double stops. I have small pulls when I shift. You know what? Yeah, when you mean when you have this that portion, right? Probably in the middle. It's important to actually practice double stops with. Right now I'm playing in any key, whatever, but so that is on the slur. Then they're doing the same things, the shift without this changing the bow. So being able to hear the shift as you move the bow and reversing. Like this, because that's what you will use in music in there. So a little bit of a slower tempo, of course, and fast tempo, your hand will go faster, but also the bow will be already making it change really nicely as well. So that's what is helpful there. But you do need to work just around the places where that happens, because it doesn't happen everywhere. Just only those couple of situations, probably. Next question. It's easier for violins to make speed passages like in Wagner and Tristan. Isolde am composing high-speed patterns, and I'm scared to overwhelm musicians. Well, and you should be. Yes, please be scared, and please don't write something that is not not too comfortable to play. Of course, there's some, you cannot possibly know all the notes that are comfortable or not. But having a violinist on hand, I think would be very, very good. Just when you write something, call your friend, some friend or friend of a friend who is a violinist, and say, like, could you please look at this passage? That would be very helpful. Okay, let me see. State of health. As an advanced beginner, what is the ideal warm-up routine and skills to focus on? Advancing beginner. Well, again, it's kind of a still long period that we can call advancing beginner. So depending on what you have done already, I would definitely do probably some exercises, finger exercises. You're an adult, so you're not going to be bored. Like for kids, it would be different, because kids cannot concentrate on more boring things like what I was doing when I was little. So, so I would do finger exercises, concentrating on clarity of movement, like Shradik or Shevchik, whichever your teacher is using or you're using, a little bit. Then I would do still basically left hand, right? To speed up for dexterity a little bit faster, so you have a goal, and you go like this with speeding it up every day a little bit. Then you will, after this, if you're using shifts already, I will do some exercises on shifts, simple exercises on shifts, and from Shevchik, if you're already there, you can use some of those. If not, just the younger shift, so to speak. Then I would say, then you go to scale and you play your scale. So either it's pattern scales. If you don't do shifts yet, then it will be pattern scales. And I have a video on pattern scales, so I won't bore everybody saying what pattern scales are. So I have video on finger patterns, these things, and pattern scales. Okay, so I will do pattern scales for sure. In fact, I recommend to do pattern scales for a lot longer than just beginners. And then if you do shifting, to go to your 3-octave scale, or 2-octave with a, could be 2-octave with a shift, a bit better already, probably 3-octave scale. So that would be warm up for the left hand. Now right hand, again, using scale, you could do this, or using certain exercises. You will do your bowings, like the different combination bowings, like Kreutzer and Kreutzer number 2. If you're there, if you're not in Kreutzer, we do it on a scale, different patterns of bowings. Okay. My left pinky always gets tensed when I use other fingers. It falls and touches open strings and make noises. So when you use other fingers, your fourth finger just falls on that string. So for instance, if I'm on A string, if it falls on E string, mine doesn't, but I'm making it right now. You will not hear any noises. So yours apparently falls on the same string, like this. That kind of noise becomes because it kind of touches. Well, you know what? Honestly, I've never heard it yet before. I would keep it away from falling on the string. Yeah. So I mean, but you're probably already trying to keep it away, right? And then it gets tense like that. No, just keep it away a little bit. There's a difference between. I mean, okay, let me go back. So if you relax your hand completely like this, so your hand in relaxed shape will have pinky shorter. unless your pinky is enormously long, it will be shorter than this. So basically, if these are on the string, pinky just can't reach there. So it's apparently something with the motion that you're sending it there, um, unconsciously. You don't want to like this. They go together, yes, but it is short. So it just, I don't know how yours is managing to get onto the same string. If it goes onto next string, you won't hear no sound there unless you're playing double stop. I'm not exactly sure that I understand the question. Maybe you can clarify it a little bit. But the pink is actually very strong by itself, not my left upper arm feels sore. Upper arm? You mean here? Oh, that is a lot of tension then you will hold it. If this gets sore here, it cannot get sore in a normal situation. There's nothing working there. So there is something that you're just you're tensing this muscle for no reason whatsoever. You just need to let go of that muscle. You need to figure out how, because no, it's not working when we play violin on left hand at all. So it shouldn't be doing anything. Are there hi Professor Bushkova, are there exercises for bettering the vibrato with different speeds? How can I oops how you can train vibrato? It's important to use arm, and is it and wrist, or just mastering one of them? You know what? The best way, of course, to have all of them. Yeah, to be able to use whatever you need to use for sound. Yeah. So again, remember that the wrist vibrato, we call it wrist vibrato, or we call it, some people call it hand vibrato, but it never exists without the forearm, because muscles are in the forearm. So it's still forearm related, but it is maybe primarily in wrist, like mine, or it can be just the forearm, just like right now what I'm showing when I'm moving this whole thing here, or I'm moving mostly this, but I still can feel that my muscles are definitely engaged. Um, so exercise to be broad. Yes, I would say, I think Daniel Kurganov, my colleague, my dear colleague, who has also a wonderful channel, I think he has some vibrato exercises he demonstrates in there. Why don't you go look up in there? Because, instead of me just going into it's a big topic. I would suggest that you go to my video on wrist vibrato, because when you do, when you speed up the wrist, and the way I show that in my wrist vibrato video, you do it with metronome. And basically, all speeding up will be done with metronome, no matter what method you use, because the method I demonstrate is done in higher positions. You can do the same pretty much thing with in a lower, in the third position, you will be touching then the violin here, and going mostly back, in that case, because you'll be touching here, but sort of both ways, but mostly back. Here it is clearly just both ways it will go. But yeah, it's metronome, and it's looseness. So you absolutely can't experience any, like you do it through tension. If you do it through tension, put it off. Next day, sleep on it. Literally, after we sleep on things, movements get clarified and the brain go into the right compartment. You usually are better next day. Okay. So let's see. Alan Lee. Hello, Alan. Is it good to just focus on Bach, Beethoven, and Mozart for college students? Well, no, I would say it's not just only focus on the three composers will be kind of limiting. Um, I would say, well, I mean, everything in moderation, everything like we eat. Our diet is supposed to be the best diet is what, like varied enough, and everything in moderation. And so the same thing here for development of a musician, of young musician, and also physically. I wouldn't focus just on those three composers. I would go with well, again, sometimes I skip like a semester with some student. They would not play Bach for a semester. I had situations when somebody didn't play Bach for the whole year. Why? Because they played a lot of Bach before, and and we had to, work on other things. I mean, it's rare. Usually, some Bach is present because it's a different type of writing and hearing and kind of knowing what to do. Mozart and Beethoven, they're in many ways interchangeable for learning purposes. I mean, clarity of attacks, of articulation, everything. Earlier Beethoven and Mozart, but again, later Mozart already corresponds to middle Beethoven for sure. So yeah, I would definitely have romantic violinists. I would definitely have violinist composers in college for college students. I always do. I absolutely give people to play Spohr and Vietang, Sarasate, Wieniawski, Paganini. I mean, they important. They are building our technique big way, big time. Yes, thank you. So vibrato, watched my video, please. Yes, in great detail, exactly right. Okay, so speaking from my experience as a child learning, in your beginning stages, what type of exercise and pieces kept you motivated in the earlier stages? Something you love to do? Honestly, no, it wasn't like this in my childhood. First of all, I was in many ways an exception. People like me. I wasn't the only exception, no, but people like me were kind of exceptions. Why? I grew up in a family of violinists, and my mother was, well, both of my parents were violinists, okay? So, but my mother was my idol, and I just wanted to do everything she did, including violin. So, and my mother was professionally violinist, a concert violinist and soloist and teacher. And so that's exactly what I wanted to do. So I knew I would be violinist from get-go. I mean, I knew before I was 5, I was begging for violin and where to start. I didn't start at 5. I was very upset about this. My parents forgot to get me violin when I was 5 years old on my birthday. So I got it a little bit later. Then I got sick. Then basically started taking lessons when I was 6. So and no, we were not taught like what would keep you motivated. You keep yourself motivated. It wasn't about the pieces. You did what was supposed to be done. But I always had the big goal in mind. I knew that I would be there. Like I have to be there. There means in professional world. So whatever I needed to do, no matter what kind of a uh, tasteless oatmeal I had to eat every day, to put it this way, I would eat that oatmeal because I had, further goals. So that's about me. How you work the first movement of Max, the part chords. Max, is composer Max. Please clarify. Both, okay, so your question about pinky, both A and E. My pinky itself is very strong, maybe it's trying hard to help. It's possible. Oh, Max Brook. Oh, I see. Okay. Um, okay, pinky. First, well, let me follow up with pinky. Well, pinky being strong should not have put the pinky on the string. So basically, you know what you need to do? You really need to make sure that you can do this movement. Like when you separate these fingers on the thumb, everything is relaxed. And then just think about the third finger going, maybe towards here, right? So not the fourth going there, but the third, and the fourth comes with it. So the fourth is just shorter. I mean, is yours exceptionally long? I would just keep it slightly, maybe turned off. Maybe yours is too much like this. Maybe you're turning your hand too much to the fingerboard. I honestly have to see you in order to help you with something like this. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen this situation. But again, you can always see something for the first time. I'd be happy to help if I could watch your hand for a little bit. How you work the first movement of Max Bruch? Okay, the part with the chords, right? Well, with any chords, you want to, like let's say, I would not necessarily do what that one, those chords, right? So, well, number one, good fingerings. So they go back and forth. Second finger moves, right? Back and forth. If that does it, it's already half the deal. Secondly, we do it like this. You see what my right hand is doing? So not down, 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 down. It's only when you have everything figured out on the left hand. So let's say your left hand is figured out. It's clean, it's comfortable, everything moves, because that would be the first thing. So now for the chords themselves, two ways to do chords. I mean, if you're closer to the beginning stages, I will first do, get to this position. This is frog position. Don't play the chords like this. They will scratch. I mean, there are a couple people in the world who can do chords like this and not scratch. I don't know how they do it. It's an exception. They're exception. Everybody else does it by holding the weight of the bow with the pinky. Okay, so you are here, you're very close to the string, and then you quickly break at first. So two things and two. So you don't put the weight of the core of the bow and your hand. Okay, so you hold it. You hold it in the air, but very close to the string. Then you do this, and then again, and then you quickly retake and hold very close to the string, but don't put the bow on the string. Okay, so that's the way for the beginners, for closer to beginners. Now there's other way to do it for more advanced players. If you are a more advanced player, write to me. I show you the other way. Okay. Let me see. Keep watch. Keep watching your left thumb. I'm missing something here. Okay. So how did you solve the problem? Okay, you guys, good. Solve your problems also. That's helpful. What's your preference to listen to if a virtuoso soloist is playing a Strad, Guarneri del Gesù, Guadagnini, Amati, Villaume? What I say, I don't know, honestly. I mean, if you like, you have a chance to go and listen to a bunch of people playing these different instruments, I'll listen to all of them, each of them. Or you mean like the one I would prefer to play? I mean, if a person plays well, I don't care which one of the great instruments or not so great instruments they play. They will play well. They will play amazingly well, you know. So when I was little, I, in theory, loved the Guarneri del Gesù. I really did. I thought that, oh my God, by all accounts, like I read in books and everything. Oh, and of course, Paganini had Guarneri del Gesù, Il Canone, right? All of that. And so yeah, it was, I thought that I would really love that bit dark sound, full dark, more alto almost rather than soprano. And so that one time when I was playing concerts, back then I was playing still a lot of solo performances, and the collector called my management and offered a violin. I mean, he had two fantastic violins. He had the Del Gesù, Guarneri Del Gesù, and a Strad. And he had a bunch of phenomenal bows. He was a either neurosurgeon or some kind of a big time surgeon, and so an amateur violinist, and he had money to invest into that, and he did. And so he was giving these instruments to play to people, which was very nice. So called my management. I was playing a concert near where he lived, and he came and gave me to say, well, would you like to play a concert on one of those or on both of those, if you like? And so, yes, I played the concert on first half I played on Guarneri del Gesù and second half of the Strad. And I must say that with all my love, theoretical love to Guarneri del Gesù, that Strad won. It was unbelievably easy to play. And just like the response was amazing and everything. And and the funny thing, of course, so I was not playing on Guarneri del Gesù myself or any of the ones that you mentioned there, Michelle. Mine was just an unknown Italian, but a completely unknown violin, without maker, without name. It sounded good. I liked it, and of course, I had to produce a lot of sound, right? So then I go to these two and I just like, oh my God, this is like a different world. You can just play these things, they just sound, and especially the Strat. Oh my God, like nothing, you do nothing. Then after the concert, this guy comes to me and said, you know, I gave my violins to the Emerson Quartet to record, for their da back then CD, and to these people and to that person, very famous names. He said, but how come that you sounded better than any of them today? How is it possible? You're not even that famous. What can I say? It's not important how famous you are. You can have really great sound if you work on it. And especially if you have a less fantastic violin and you have to produce some, then you take one of those and of course you sound like $1,000,000. But yeah, so my preference was the Strat actually. Out of these two, not to say that what Del Gesù was necessarily maybe the best, maybe there's some other ones that I would like more, you know. How lucky. Oh, well, thank you. Using awareness, when you feel it's tensing, stop and make note of that tenseness. Relax and then try. Exactly. And you can also relax as you play. Like once you know what it means tense and what is relaxed, and you play and you just let go as you play, and then you register the difference. That's very important. Um, you're welcome. Which composers do you remount for each level? Oh, I mean, composers I would suggest on each level. I always recommend to study violin composers who wrote for violin, obviously, and they were violinists themselves. So that's what I mean, violin composers. So before playing Bruch, for instance, or any of even Mozart, it should be um, reading and Zeitz and Dankla. A lot of Dankla. He wrote fantastic things on different levels. Um, Akolai, of course, is great concerto. Hollander wrote very nice things. I mean, Zeitz wrote really good things. We learned on them usually. Anyway, Viotti, then you later go Viotti, Rod, Berio, and Spohr. And yeah, absolutely. It has to be violinist composers. Yes, relaxing anything is easier said than done. I agree with the conversation. Um, Anatomy it is different. I check with the teacher. Yeah, absolutely true. AB. Yes, it is. That's why nobody can ever cancel the private lessons or lessons in person. Absolutely, because it's to diagnose somebody's sickness without even seeing a patient. Any doctor will tell you it's impossible. Although, I mean, yes, some symptoms may be kind of clear cut, but a lot of times there will be variations that you need to see the person to make sure that you're correct. And so the same thing here, especially. So I think they were referring to Bruch and Schott. Yes, there was Bruch, obviously. And let me see. I am told that I skipped one question, and I'm looking for the questions I skipped. Where's my skipped questions? Well, let me see. Question from State of Health. I'm so told that I skipped the question from State of Health. I did? How far do I need to scroll back? I don't know. Okay. State of Health. If I missed your question, please type it again because I can't find it, the one I missed. Was it for the good way to relax left thumb tension? I find it gets tense on my, okay, maybe that one. If it gets tense and my hand dexterity and precision goes down. Yeah, that one I would recommend to definitely go to the Milstein video. The Milstein, I mean, I give it mostly for training the pinky, but it's great to relax the thumb because when you put violin in this position, and it should rest here, completely rests here. So your thumb then is completely out of work. It doesn't have a function. It just will have to be there. So it will be either in the air like this, or you can allow it to come and touch, but just like wherever it is, just like come forward. And it will feel high because violin will be low and so on. But yeah, so once you start and you play with fingers, like three fingers only, like, here. Doesn't matter. I mean, there might not much you can play actually in this position, but you will notice if your thumb is squeezing, yeah, that's when you learn like to let it go, and you're pressing with the fingers against your hand, not against the thumb. Usually thumb gets tense when fingers feel, or you feel like you have to press fingers against the thumb in a way, because it's here and we kind of hold the violin that way too much, obviously, in that case. And then, so from here and then to this, adjusting like in the thumb position, but again, keeping it the same way. So then there are exercises like, I think I also give them somewhere. I know I did. I had a video on that included those exercises. That would be in a left hand frame. Go to my beginning left hand videos. There is a video in which I show how to also practice, having the thumb off and then back, and then moving it this way and that way, and that definitely helps to relax the thumb. Yeah, it's in one of my left hand videos. The playlist will be beginner left hand. Now, in case of lowering your thumb, it depends. That's what Tianshu Watson is asking. Lowering your thumb. By itself, if your thumb is here, for instance, but it's comfortable to play, that's not high. It's not too high. So lowering your thumb. Some people lower the thumb by doing this. Some people do even worse. They lower the thumb by moving it back. Those are not good things. I mean, if you lower, you will lower the whole hand on this side, sort of like this. That, yeah, that may be helpful. Sometimes it is. You have to try. But in any case, it should not be really pressing a lot at all. So go to Milstein and observe your thumb, how much it wants to come in and do something. Okay. Where do you have? I have my thumb positioned. You position your thumb where it grows. I have a video on that too. That will be in a left-hand setup. Yeah. So where it grows. So mine, for instance, is here. You see, I have a big opening here. So when violin goes in here. My thumb is right there where it stays. Now my first finger, then I will move back a little bit. But it is in my video, and I show it every which way there. That's the main thing. So when we are setting the violin into the hand, the first finger later will go back and form this straight line in here, and not like this forward, because that would be sharp, and then you will move the whole thing back, and then thumb is now feeling basically back, and that's not good. And that's when it will be squeezing. Actually, it will be awful, feel clumsy, and that lack of control of the bow when playing near the tip and the frog, especially retakes down, down, down. I think my bow hold isn't secure, and pinky often slips off the bow. Okay, so if your pinky often slips off the bow, it's possible. So if you're playing with a tilt and your pinky slips, you need to know that you have to put the pinky behind, not on top of the bow, like this, and then, because yes, it will slip like this. You see, if I'm my bow is tilted, and somebody told me like you have to place it on top of the bow. No, you place it behind slightly, here, like there. If you're playing with the tilt. Now, and then that way it can bend, and it still cannot slip. Okay, if you're playing without tilt, with flat hair, then it goes on top of the bow, but then can't really be slipping. Again, maybe you're doing too much of this. If that's curved like that, of course it will also can slip, but I doubt it. Probably not. Just this movement. It's wrist. It comes from the wrist, right? It bends, so you should be able to just hold it in a bendy position. Bow hold isn't secure. My hunch is that you probably hold way too much with 1, 2, 3, and not, uh, balancing this on the 4 enough. That's my hunch. Okay, let's see. Somebody asks me about bow. Let me see. Okay. What book you recommend about violin pedagogy for beginners? Pedagogy. So book for teachers, for beginners. I don't know if there are any in English language, honestly. I really don't know. There's not much pedagogy written down here. Maybe Kurt Sussman House. I know he wrote a method. He's a professor at Cincinnati Conservatory. He wrote his own method, including beginners. Maybe theirs. He says something about that, about for teachers specifically. I would say anywhere, any book that describes the first steps would be good. Simon Fisher has a great book called The Violin Lesson for Teachers and Players. And then he just goes from basics also there. Simon Fisher, the Violin Lesson, it's called. With a budget about 150, then would they recommend a wooden bow, carbon fiber bow? Probably it would be carbon fiber that at that price you will get. But the problem with carbon fibers is they're very heavy, and that's not good for beginners. So you know what? The main thing I would recommend: $150 in the beginner rent. Don't buy, just rent. I'm not sure what the prices for the bow will be, but beginner bow probably should be pretty cheap. I would imagine violins are pretty cheap to rent. I mean, why to buy? May try different things then, rather than just the one that you bought. So if you got the bow and it's a carbon fiber and it's heavy, heavy means anything about 60 grams. Above 60 grams for the beginners is heavy. It's too heavy. So then don't hold it here. Hold it there, just in a wrong place, in a upward. So you teach your pinky to function properly. Um, I wanted to really thank you so much for videos. Thank you. How did the project start? It started from, I believe it was my left hand vibrato. The wrist vibrato was my first video, if I remember correctly. And I made it first because my former students asked me. I had no idea I would start the project. I would start the channel. I didn't think so. I wasn't starting a channel. I just made one video. At first, it was unlisted. For a long time, it was unlisted. And then some of my students to whom I sent the link, they say, "Why is it unlisted? It should be listed." So I made it listed, and then suddenly gotten views right away. And then I did a couple more like shifts. I think maybe the next one was like simple shifts, basic shifts, and then the bow hand bits and pieces. The 3 little videos in 3 parts. But again, I didn't think I would be doing a channel really seriously. I just thought, okay, well, why not? I will just share with people what I do every day, and I do know it, and I do get good results. But then later on, it turns out, yeah, people liked it, and so I started doing it as a channel. And thanks, of course, of my wonderful support, my team, Arsenio Caritona. For me, without him, nothing would be here. Okay, on the tech questions, when practicing octaves, not fingered, how would you suggest working on focus for the hand shape and not focus on individual finger placements? Yeah, at octaves, go to some nice position first. Don't try to do it necessarily from first position, maybe third position, or go to the note of D. Sorry, I already unscrewed my bow. So, and you just get got two fingers here like this. I would always start from the fourth, then first, even though in third position won't matter so much. But still, just in case, make sure that your thumb is not here. That's not good. So have it in a nice place. So you got your D, and just sit there. Let it sink, like how it feels. Then you take your fingers off, and then to the best of your ability by memory, you go and you put them back again and you check again. Well, mine would be in tune, because I've done it for a long time. But if you land and land like this, then don't panic, don't take them off. Then you know that that one is sharp, but don't think it's sharp. It's sharp by sound, but it is too far away. So you just move it back there. And then I say, okay, so it's closer than I thought. So you're constantly concentrating on the distance, on at the feeling between the fingers, the interval. Like then you go there, repeat the procedure. Here first, just here, then taking hand off and just getting back again. Then now, when you slide, let's say I have that, right? Don't panic. Don't take the fingers off. The first thing, find out what didn't work. So the fourth didn't go. My first went. My fourth didn't go. Well, now go together. You see what I mean? So yes, it's you constantly don't think about which finger's fault it is, and don't try to adjust like individual fingers. Think smaller or larger. That's it, and then kind of move like this in your mind and in your hand as well. You see advanced players do octaves and the hand frame just does its thing. It's challenging and I'm trying to get the fourth finger to match. I think I just explained, right, how to do it. You're welcome. You're welcome. Will vibrato change where your thumb is placed? It might, but usually, yeah, it could. It could make it. You could in a certain placement of the thumb. Sometimes I put my thumb like not the way I would play. Okay, for vibrato. Sometimes I would put my thumb, here. Vibrate like this. So I would break against the thumb. My thumb is back right now. I would never play passages like that. It's not comfortable and my fourth finger will be compromised. But if I vibrate like, for a long note, yeah, I can put it right there and back. I can also vibrate the same way with my thumb being here, but yeah, so it can be in many positions. Sometimes I would vibrate, I would let violin sink into my hand and just, do this way in upper positions, not in lower ones. And just, for a short time when I don't have to reach with my fourth. So yeah, vibrato is a separate beast. You don't have to have the same hand position in vibrato as you have in passages completely. Should the left arm, the left arm, the major thing that supports the violin neck and all the weight from the left fingers? No, I mean, there's always collarbone. The collarbone is gets redder because violin just was there now. So collarbone and then the in between the thumb and the index finger. So it's here. That's how the collarbone sits right here, and then the two of them. So it's like 3 points. 1, 2, 3. There are some people who play just this and the thumb, and that's we're talking without shoulder rest. If completely without shoulder rest. With shoulder rest, you also have shoulder rest to help you as well. But yeah, it still will be somewhat in between your fingers, thumb and the finger, and on the collarbone. Absolutely make sure that your violin is on a collarbone. Reminds me, I forgot to tell one of my students today, she switched the chin rest, and then she's right, looks like this right now. Violin is like here, there's like that much space, there. Not good. Right after this stream, I will make sure that she knows. So now I can see how that skips. Thumb, left fingers. Are you going to do some videos on musicality? I enjoy your technique approach. One of the only I highly agree with. Well, thank you, Brooke. The videos, and I'm curious how you work with students on develop musicianship. I thought about doing these videos on musicianship, but it is. First of all, you have to. I have one video for sure. It's articulation in Beethoven. I don't know if you saw it one. that one. That was with a student of mine. That was on specifically just the question of articulation on the example of Beethoven Fifth Sonata, the so-called Spring Sonata. But it's a hard thing to do. First of all, because you have to have a lot more equipment than we at this point have. As you see, my channel is uh, not profitable for me, right? So whatever equipment we have, but we don't have more. And so to do a basically more professional grade quality video, you have to have more equipment than what we have, me and my partner. So we that would be one thing, because you also have to mic me and to mic the student, hopefully. In that video, I think only I was mic'd, and so the sound is distorted. My sound is distorted when I show right here, and I have the clip on mic also not exactly right. So there are these things. I mean, logistics, getting the student to come to lesson at the time when he can be or she can be filmed. It's hard, So that's pretty much what precludes it. Because I want good quality video. I mean, I could probably just video some of my lessons, but that would not be a good quality video. I will think about this. Maybe I should do something less quality, but more point. Okay, let's see. Um, Nobody asked, how are you? Oh, I am fine. Thank you. I just taught a long day today at university, and then I had just very little time before to start the stream. So I made it. I was very proud of myself. Okay. How can I fix playing near the fingerboard? Oh, you want to learn right? To play near fingerboard. The first answer to this question will be simple. You place your bow near the fingerboard, I would say in contact point 5, and then you position yourself. You can look here, right there, or you can look at yourself as a mirror. Now here I don't have a mirror, I have a camera, so it's a different. I'm used to the mirror, I'm not so used to the camera, but anyway. So, and you go slowly, and you see that your bow stays in that one contact point. And then you look here. And then you play different notes also. So, and you keep staying there. Make sound. Sure, the sound is good. Sound has to be. It will be light. It will be piano, and the speed has to be rather great. And so you will be accelerating that speed. As more acquainted you will. If you're not in violist, I can see there's some violists. Then you will imagine that you are violist, because on viola, bow is here to be in number 3. It will be right here. Okay, we're playing number 3 here, closer, and they're over there. So we will be kind of playing viola. Okay, let me see. Oh, Daniel, you're here. Thank you. Instagram violinists seem to be accepting the rich historical archive for young people. Do you curate recordings for your students to listen to? And what if they are indifferent to the great artists of the past? You know what? Unfortunately, a lot of them are indifferent. So then you have to use a whip, some kind of a methods of bodily harm. Joking. No, I don't whip my students, but sometimes I wish I could, to get them to do what's right, that was good for them. How curate recordings? Yes, I should do it more. The recordings of the past. Usually, you probably know how it happens. I mean, they play a piece and they want to go and listen to that piece, which I don't like, because then they start, getting bits and pieces from there. But yeah, I send them to your channel a lot, because you have them there, and that's a great thing. And I think you started doing those way before you started producing your teaching videos, right? As if I recall, and like you did a lot on Facebook still back in the day, if I'm right. But yeah, so yes, some are interested. And usually, like within the studio, the more interested ones, they form a nucleus, and then people tend to go to them. That's also helpful. But yes, I suggest listen to that one, listen to that, depending on what they are doing usually. Unfortunately, I'm very pragmatic that way. Not I am pragmatic, I just don't have time to. I probably should develop a whole list that everyone needs to listen to. Yeah, I probably should do this. Thank you. Thank you for your question. And thank you for the donation. Thanks. Okay, so let me go and yes, by the way, donations are possible. Somebody also asked me uh, in the in the comments how to donate. Well, there is a on the right side of under the video. There's like the share, download, and then there are like usually three dots. So if you click on three dots, then the first up is thanks, and that thanks can be expressed in a monetary way, which I do appreciate because yes, it is free all the time. Um, okay. What bow are you currently playing? It's gorgeous and forget to ask every stream. I only have one bow and I play with that bow already probably about 30 years. It's a hill, it's made in a Hill's uh, workshop. Yeah, so basically like call it short, it's a Hill studio bow. Yeah, made in 1962 by Malcolm Taylor. So that's all I have. I don't have a single bow, the other bow, except for several second bows that I have that now all are in the hands of my students. And a couple of them actually are really good mix, carbon fiber mix with wood. They're fantastic. They're really good bows. Um, so you saw lifting PSAT, yeah, but I lost the balance on my normal bow hold. You have to rebalance. Well, I mean, the pinky has to be there when it has to be there, and it shouldn't be there when it shouldn't be there. Like I know it sounds like just nonsense, but that's what it is. If you need to hold the weight of the bow, you have the pinky on. If you don't have to hold the weight of the bow, don't have it on. If your hand is turned. But for sautille, for instance, yeah, I usually hold it on. I won't lift it. It's comfortably there. It doesn't do much, but it's there. Well, Michelle, it's a tourte bow principle. Of course, all of our bows are tourte, invented by tourte, the principle of the bow itself. The way the camber is made, the way how it tightens and all that, but it's not. I don't have a tourte bow. Tourte bow would be completely out of the range of simple mortal to get these days, I think. I pretty much imagine it costs enormous amount of money. Oh, thank you for your donation. Thank you, I appreciate it. Okay, that's divides. Okay. So anyway, let me see. Celebrate the first super chat from Divide. Celebrate. I do celebrate. There's other way to celebrate. I just don't know how to do it. Please, suggestion. What I need to do from people who know. I am still in a different century here. Okay. Tourt is like 500K plus. Let's go. Well, Daniel, thank you so much. But now I don't know how to. Yeah, your first ever. Okay, so my first ever. I don't know now how to scroll. Oh, okay. I can't scroll past it. Everybody learns here. Okay, let's see. So we need more violinists in the chat. Yeah, well, I mean, it would be nice, but we will need to. Well, Daniel, I have talked that we just want to do a stream together. All right, Daniel, we need to do this, just two of us, and maybe to get some other colleagues who also have channels to do it. It's great, Basim. Thank you. Yes. Okay. All right, people. It's been wonderful. I have to go. I meant to do an hour, and it's now an hour and 25 minutes. And yeah, I have to go, and I have to attend to my other work, like my university work. Um, yeah, both are expensive. Violins are expensive. Anyway, thank you all for being here, for your contributions and your wonderful questions. And uh, yes, the game has to be over. Bye. I'll see you next time.